Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from Disney, we are featuring the Marvel Toy Box Wolverine. Alright, so this is an older action figure that came out a couple of years ago. I can't find a date on here. These were available exclusively at the Disney Store, and I'm not sure if the Disney Store is still a thing, unless you're like at one of the parks. But some of my local malls used to have the Disney Store, and this was an action figure line that I'd always look at, but I could never pull the trigger on. And I really regret that because since the Disney stores are kind of like non-existent, it's like I miss, just going to the shops and checking out their exclusives. And I remember trying my hardest not to buy any of these figures because I thought they were so cool. And they came out kind of frequently, so they did have a sizable catalog of these guys. And they were always just very unique, and it kind of reminded me of the Disney Infinity series that was on video game consoles. So if you're a video gamer during the era of like the PS3, the Xbox One, and the PS4, some of you might remember there was a kind of like... it's kind of like the equivalent of like a Nintendo Amiibo, but for Disney they had something called Disney Infinity, and it was kind of like a display base. And then they kind of had these like miniature figurines that were kind of like similar to the Amiibos or like Skylanders. But the Disney Infinity range included characters from their IPs like Star Wars and Marvel, and just anything and everything Disney. And the design aesthetic, it was very cartoony. It kind of reminded me of like the character designs from like The Incredibles, where all the characters were kind of more top heavy with really exaggerated features. And for some reason, it worked really well in the Marvel Toy Box line, especially with the superhero range. And what we're looking at today is the Wolverine, and it's pretty cool. I dig this a lot. He comes with the Muramasa blade, his katana right there. Comes with his hat and an alternate portrait if you want to go maskless. One of the reasons why I bought this, I was at one of my local collectible toy stores and they had this on the shelf. And this was a few weeks ago. This was maybe a week or two before Deadpool and Wolverine came out. And I always have Wolverine fever, but the fact that this was the blue and yellow costume with the maskless design, I had to get it. This was figure number 19 in the series. Other figures included the Captain Marvel, which I actually do have, and I'll probably do a review on that in the future. The Wolverine, which we're looking at right now, and then there was the Spider-Man from Far From Home. So yeah, these are cool. In the States, they were priced at $13, which is kind of reasonable. Like I said, I kind of regret not buying these when the Disney Store was still around. But here we are. Roughly 5 years later, this was in 2019, and I'm checking this figure out. Alright, let's unbox this. Yeah, the X-Men logo on the back, which is nice. You have the hat. You have Wolverine's Muramasa blade. Really cool accessory, and it comes out of the sheath, which is really, really cool. It's so nice that they give you this additional scabbard with a strap. I dig that a lot. This is like something that you could probably like incorporate into your Marvel Legends line also if you wanted to. The alternate head, which is the maskless face. It looks kind of weird. It almost looks more like a helmet than sideburns, but I don't mind. It fits the aesthetic. It's a very disproportionate figure. Very exaggerated in its features. Okay, so let's take a look at the Wolverine. Good old Wolverine. We have Logan here, James Howlett. It's a really nice shade of blue and yellow. Now, for its price point at the time, for like 13 bucks, I don't think this is bad at all. I think it's actually a good deal, especially considering all the different accessories and options you got. It's a very, like I said, it's a very cartoon proportioned figure. One thing I do like about this a lot is the fact that it has, looks like retractable claws. Alright, I thought it was going to be a cool feature, but it's kind of disappointing. I thought the claws would retract all the way, but you can either have the claws out halfway or fully, so it's kind of disappointing. You know, part of me, when I saw this, I thought the claws would retract fully into his arm, but it doesn't. But it's still cool nonetheless. I just wish you'd have that play feature. Like, it pains me that Hasbro doesn't incorporate retractable claws on the Marvel Legends figures, whereas Toy Biz, it seemed like back in the day, every chance they got to like give you a retractable claw figure, they'd do it. And I do like that the claws remain straight. You know, many times on the Marvel Legends figures, the claws are kind of flopping around everywhere. In terms of the figure's height, you're looking at something that stands in at about, I'm guessing, alright, so yeah, it's about 5.5 inches tall. The paint job, I noticed, is kind of weird. It's kind of sloppy too. Like, you notice when you pull the joints apart, you can see the paint kind of like rubbing here. I kind of wish the joint would just remain blue as opposed to, you know, painting it up, because every time you move it, the paint's just gonna like scratch off as it's doing right now. And it's very unsightly. It almost makes the figure seem like lower quality than it actually is, because the figure is actually constructed very nicely. It's just a shame that the paint here is just very sloppy and it doesn't look all that well. We have Wolverine in his astonishing X-Men costume. This is not the classic blue and yellow. This is much more modern, from like early 2000s, mid 2000s. He has the X-Men belts, the boots. He has the striping. Again, the paint's a little bit sloppy here. As you see, it gets kind of fuzzy towards the edges. Over here, it's kind of decent, but on this side, not so much. In terms of the figure's articulation, Wolverine's head moves, looks up a little, doesn't really look down. His arms are articulated, they go outward. Elbow bend, again, retractable. Not fully retractable, but at least you could retract them partially. I do like how the claws are very long too, so let's get them all the way fully extended. It features articulation at the waist, legs kick up, they kick outward, and his knees bend and also swivel. So, yeah, I kind of wish they'd do this with the arms. I kind of wish they'd keep the joints completely blue as opposed to painting them. Because like I said, as soon as you start moving it, the paint starts flaking off, and it doesn't look that nice. Keep in mind, this, you know, more so intended for children than the serious collector. But I think with its sensibilities, you know, they did keep the collector in mind. The head pops off really easily, and there's this giant ball joint. And let's get the maskless head on, which pops in pretty easily. Looks cool. Again, I'm kind of torn on the design though, because it looks more like a helmet than hair. But I'm assuming that's because you want to be able to put the hat on, which we have right here. So if you want to create like Wolverine when he's kind of being casual, there you go. He has his hat on. Size comparison time. Here he is next to a Marvel Legends Vulcan. And I do have a couple of Wolverine figures actually on me. There's this one, and I have some the other blue and yellow costumes. Toy Biz figure, Hasbro. And there you go. It's pretty cool. And what about the sword? me see if I get the sword on. So I think the sword slings over one of his shoulders. Yeah, so that's awesome. I dig this a lot. It's really cool. Yeah, so there you go. We have Toy Box Wolverine. And is this sword, it's kind of to scale with the Marvel Legends if you wanted to use it, I guess. But yeah, I dig this a lot. I'm glad I got it. So this is something you're going to have to hunt down on the secondary market. It's about 5 years old. But if you're into this kind of like action figure aesthetic, or if you were actually a fan of the Toy Box line back in the day, I think it's worth it. It's a shame that this kind of, I'm not sure if it's even a thing anymore, because I do know they made a Mandalorian Toy Box figure a few years ago, and they also made the Razor Crest. So I'm not sure if they still make Toy Box figures, or if it's maybe a park exclusive thing or an online exclusive thing, but there's a sizable catalog of figures they can still hunt down online, you know, through eBay or Facebook Marketplace, and they're all very exceptional. You know, they kind of have this very cartoon aesthetic to it. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.